Yeah, we're just gonna record it so people can watch it if they couldn't make it to the meeting.
For sure. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, a little bit about myself. I graduated from Cal Poly in 2019, concentrated information systems. I interned with EY my junior year and then accepted the full-time offer in risk advisory, which is now the tech risk practice, part of the business consulting practice at EY. So there has been a lot of changes also within the firm since I've joined. Other things about myself, I've had the opportunity to work mainly with tech clients in the Bay Area, and it's been a lot of fun being able to just experience post-grad life with EY. And even though we are in a virtual setting, I've definitely still been able to do like all my work, and I'm sure adapted as you guys have to school. And I'm excited to be here. Please ask me any questions you have at the end. I want to be as open of a book as I can with you guys. So on to you, John.
Sure thing. Hey guys, I'm John. I graduated from Cal Poly, which must have been 3 years ago if it's 2 for you, Krista, which is really scary to think about. And yeah, I studied finance and accounting. I really was interested in analytics, but didn't really have the opportunity to study it like more deeply. So I'm excited that you guys have that like open to you. And then, yeah, I also joined our risk advisory practice, but in the business side. So I work mainly with financial services. EY has a specific branch that's focused just on finance and fintech clients. And there I've been doing enterprise risk for the last couple of years. And then some other rotations and valuations and our transactions analytics group as well. Other than that, I like to ski on weekends, and I try to make it down to slow as much as possible. We'll get started and just go through these. We'll try to keep it short too, so you guys can kind of open it up to questions. I feel like this always goes better when it's more like free form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a little bit about EY. EY has so many opportunities for almost every type of career opportunity you're looking for. But today we're specifically going to be talking about the consulting career path. And it really is yours to build because there's just so many opportunities, whether it's in technology, whether it's in financial services, like John mentioned, or business services. EY provides a scale, the technology, the teams, the challenges, the learning and relationships for you to personalize and evolve your career in any way you would like. And one way I've experienced that is just being able to network. Like even though I was in risk advisory, I had opportunities to network with other individuals within the firm and explore different paths. Sometimes it can feel like there's only one path, but I promise you guys, there's so many paths to take within consulting. You can take it anywhere you'd like. If you can dream it, it can happen.
So some of the things like we use a lot of buzzwords at EY, and I'm sure if you guys have seen our marketing materials before, this is typical, but there is some truth to all of it. EY is kind of going through a shift right now where we're really trying to push innovation towards our clients. And they come to us with a lot of questions about, things that are changing in the market. So for example, I had a financial services client that was trying to assess their model risks. They built a bunch of financial models, and they were trying to realize, like, do we have some exposure to machine learning and AI that we're not totally familiar with? And if we don't understand that, how can we manage that as like a risk to our business because we don't understand them? And then they asked me as a person who was 6 months out of college, like, what should we do? And I was like, we've got a ton of experts that we can totally sell you work on for that. And they were like, great job, John. So stuff like that comes at you fast. But the point is that EY is a place that like the industry sees as leading the charge for like any changes in their organization. And we kind of break that down into technology coming quickly, which is something that they're always worried about. And also a way to scale that. Our clients aren't small, they're very big, they're the world's biggest companies. And so it isn't enough to say like we're doing something new or innovative. It has to be something that's applicable for their entire business model. But there's also a human component to that. And that's like the third pillar is like really taking into account like how these changes will affect people. And we realize that like our implementations and our strategies work the best when we consider that human component. So that's kind of like the ethic that EY is like. And just the general theme of the business is the last few years.
Awesome. Yeah, and next we're going to be just discussing a few possibilities that you'd be able to have with a career at EY. The first is relevant and flexible career path. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but you'll have the support that you need to explore different possibilities and discover opportunities at this company. And I think what's really cool about EY is that it is a global firm. There's so many different types of people. There's opportunities to work cross-border, not only virtually as it is right now, but also physically. We are definitely in a challenging time, but I've definitely been able to see how EY has been able to adapt with the changing world. We've also have a very diverse teaming experience. So at EY, it's collaboration, I think, is one of the biggest things and something that I've been able to see at my first 2 years at EY. You'll be able to work with other high performers and really challenge the way of thought for your clients. And so I've been able, one of the reasons why I really wanted to work in consulting was for all these diverse, unique experiences, all the valuable connections that I'll be making with my clients and other professionals. And I feel like I've learned from just those interactions itself so much.
And speaking of learning, EY is really invested in like its people and growing their people. I think if you're interested in coming here, it should be mainly for the fact that you can learn more and grow as a person, and then like use that as a jumping off point for your career. That being said, we invest a lot. We have a badge program now, which essentially is a way of like kind of standardizing our training curriculum. So, and it's also free form. So if you're interested in anything from like private equity to mining and metals as like an industry, or you're more interested in learning like data analytics or visualization and specific softwares and platforms there, we have a way of kind of accrediting that within the firm. And it's a really good way of like, if you're interested in jumping into projects like that, saying like, hey, I've got some experience in this, or I've done some trainings here. And so that's one of the reasons I really like EY, is that I've had a lot of opportunity to learn things that were kind of outside of like my practices day to day, but also kind of like enabled me to do different projects down the road.
Yeah. And I feel like we keep emphasizing this, but relevant and flexible career paths. And I think beyond what I have already mentioned, I really do see, at least for myself, yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I see EY definitely as a stepping stone for wherever my future career will go. And that is, I credit that due to not only that it is a global business, so there's so much exposure to different, working with people from even outside the country, but also the way that every cross-border and cross-service line experience is an opportunity for me to learn, lead, innovate, and grow in different ways through the different engagements I'm a part of. So I can confidently say, you know, I'll be able to take what I learned at EY no matter where I go in the future.
I think you can totally say that. I think everybody knows that like EY is a great place to start, and if you want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, for sure.
And if you want to stay, like there's some awesome partners and who really like love it. One of the things that I really liked about EY when I was going through recruiting, and it was important for me, was diversity and like how they kind of embodied that as a culture. That's a tough thing for businesses. I think you guys have all seen like some execs struggle to talk about it. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on it, but I will say that I was really impressed by like EY as just a corporate culture and embracing diversity. We have a ton of affinity groups. So for me, I'm in the Latin Professional Network. I know there's like a Pan-Asian Professionals Network, closely you're a part of. I thought it was really cool to see that like my partners and like senior managers in my department were all women, which is something kind of rare in the accounting and business world. And so that was really cool. And that's something that kind of drew me to EY. And then also to be able to work with people from different parts of the globe. So I've been on teams with people from like, you know, Tunisia and Pakistan, and then me, and they're like, why do Americans do things this way? I'm like, I don't know. It's just how we do stuff. And I've had teams that are just, you know, people from different parts of the country. And all of that's been like a big learning experience. And it definitely challenges you to like really think about your communication styles. But it's been a growing opportunity, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to this point too. I've definitely been able to experience, um, yeah, just a sense of pride over the company I work at, especially during the difficult time we had this summer with racial injustice and the George Floyd incident that happened. And I was curious at how EY was going to respond, but I'm definitely very I definitely think there's so much could improve, but I think it was definitely a good start where we have these things called counseling families, and my counseling family partner, he initiated a weekly 1 hour call for anyone who just wanted to talk about and be vulnerable about their experience, whether they're a minority or they are feeling hurt about everything that's been going on. So um, time as a consultant is really precious. So the fact that we have partners who are willing to set aside an hour a week to talk about this because it's important to them too really meant a lot to me. And yeah, I also am involved in some ERGs, and I've actually also been able to check out ERGs that maybe I don't necessarily identify with. Like I'm not Black, but I can be a part of the Black Professional Network. And I'm also part of the EY Christian Fellowship. So there's a place for everyone within the firm. It is such a big firm, it can sometimes feel hard to feel like you're at home there, but there are so many different spaces and organizations within it that really do provide that space for all types of people. And moving on to the next point. So yeah, EY provides new capabilities with potential new career direction, again, emphasizing that there are so many different career paths that being a part of EY consulting will help you move towards. And not only because of the work you do, but because EY consulting is really pushing innovation, like John had mentioned earlier, and that power behind people, technology, and innovation will it's something that we're going to see more of as the years progress, and I think we're at the forefront of it. And so transformative leadership. So this is another topic that as consultants we talk about a lot, how we can be a transformative leader in a world of global instability and great uncertainty, and as a consultant bring that stability into your client, into your own personal life, into your family, into your society. And that's why there's like this multi-layered approach. So over the past few months, even for myself, I feel like whether it's on an all hands call or it's on a training module that we have, this idea of my purpose, how can I be a better me? How can we be a better us? How can we together build a better working world has just constantly been talked about, because EY's main mission is to build a better working world. And so I'll break them down a little bit. So my purpose. So it's like my purpose is what most fulfills me professionally and personally. It guides how I think, act, and develop, so I'm at my best on making the world a better place. I think honestly, this is the most important, because if we as individuals don't have a sense of purpose of why we are here serving our clients, it's really hard for better me, better us, and building a better working world. And then better me, agility, well-being, curiosity. It's about growth. Better us is about teaming, belonging, inspiring. How can we be an inclusive community, and with not only our clients, but with our team. And then building a better world is all about using what we are best at and offering to others to build a better working world.
Yeah, and some of the ways like EY's invested in that, like,
Mhm.
taking this slide and like putting it into action is
Yeah.
they really wanted us to like kind of, understanding that the pandemic was kind of being hard on all the employees. They doubled our fitness fund. So like we have like $500 a year we get to spend on just like a gym membership or like meditation courses or like a yoga pass, like anything like that. And they like essentially doubled it to $1,000 and then opened it up so you could spend it on just about anything that was like kind of related to mental health. So like even if it's just like having active weekends. So now this year I can spend that money on getting a ski pass, which is what I'm super excited about. But I have friends who like bought like a year-long subscription to Calm, and that was totally kosher under it. And so they were totally like, they really pushed that as like a way of like saying like, this is us putting, rubber to the road, like taking action on this and not just making it like a slide. Um, and so UI is really invested in its people, and they see that as like our core product. And so if we have people who are healthy and doing well in their work, then it's really going to reflect in like the deliverables we're giving our clients. More buzzwords for you guys. These are all really important things. I can't speak a lot to Internet of Things, which is IoT and RPA. In financial services, RPA is robotics process automation. Essentially, it's training computers to do really mundane tasks. It's not something I've had a lot of experience with. Artificial intelligence and blockchain is something I have more exposure to. One of my clients this last summer was a large cryptocurrency exchange, and we helped them scale their liquidity management program. So making sure they have enough Bitcoin in the bank so that everybody's like, currencies can float around, which is actually kind of a challenging problem because cryptocurrencies are pretty volatile. And that's what they brought UI in to kind of give an opinion on. I had a friend who was working in blockchain in the audit side, and she actually got called by a partner in Australia. And now she lives in Sydney, and she's like part of their Australian blockchain team. So there's definitely like all these things have really real implications at the firm. If you're really interested in learning more about them, there's definitely like experts and whole practices that are dedicated to bringing these technologies to their clients. But yeah, I'd say most closely I've worked with blockchain, probably because I'm in the financial services group. And that also comes down to, I guess this is a good time to kind of break out EY as a firm and give you guys kind of a better picture of what consulting looks like. I know like, you look at us as like one big brand. I'm sure some of you are aware that like, there's tax and there's accounting and our audit and there's consulting. And me and Clarissa definitely represent the consulting bucket, but within that, there's all these different buckets. We sit in risk, I sit in finance. Being said, there's a whole lot of EY that isn't just those two things. And so if these are things that are interested in you, it's definitely a place where you can explore that. I can't super speak to like the right side of this chart, but it's definitely available. Experience. Oh, for campus hires. Yeah. And so this is kind of the same thing. If you're interested in financial services, EY is a massive financial services offering. I've like really enjoyed it. I think it's a complicated industry. I got to fly to New York and do a bunch of trainings there and meet with people as a national practice. Especially on the West Coast, we're focused on tech. And of course, you are working on a really large ride-hailing platform, and you guys have a 50-50 chance of guessing which one. But those are all, that's kind of the focus out here. If you're interested in doing something like oil and gas, you probably have to move to Houston. But if Texas is your thing, great place to do it. We also have a large government and public sector practice. That's all going to be based in Washington. So all these things are very regional. Financial services less so. But as a national firm, it's definitely like you definitely have the opportunity to do those things. And especially since travel isn't a component, that can be a good thing because I was able to work on New York clients this summer when otherwise I wouldn't have been able to. And so that's kind of like taking down some barriers. So if you're interested in a specific industry, now's a really good time to explore that.
And a little bit more on that last topic. I work with people from Texas, from Denver, so there's definitely so many opportunities. If you're interested in a specific industry, like maybe tech's not your thing and you're going to be working in the Bay, there are UI has so many connections and locations that we're everywhere, so there's always that opportunity for you. Now moving on to the consultant development program. This honestly might be something that you guys are more familiar with than I am. Back when I was starting out with the firm, I believe this is called the Summer Leadership Conference, but I believe it's changed now to Consultant Development Program, and it is something that when you join the consulting practice, you get to be a part of this program, and it just provides you a lot of learning opportunities. When I first joined the firm, they sent me out to Atlanta where I gained all the information. Well, maybe not all, maybe like 30% of the information I needed to get started, because I really believe that everything.
Did you freeze? Oh no.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, she pinged me earlier saying that they were having internet outages in her neighborhood.
Okay.
So I can try to take the show and just if she comes back in. Does that
Yeah.
sound good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that works.
I think what Clarissa was trying to say is that EY, like Cal Poly, is a big learn by doing culture. We can give you as much training as we can, but essentially you're gonna have to learn on the job. The trainings are a ton of fun. I'll say that. I mean, you're in a hotel with 500 other college graduates. Like, how could you not have a good time? And then you really do get to meet some people. Like, I have friends in Chicago now who I go and visit, all from that. So that was really great. But yeah, EY does invest a lot of time into its like early staff members, into developing like talent and like letting them grow. So that's part of this, and that starts before you even come to the firm. As like some of you might be aware of our internships. The next few slides are kind of a breakdown of the different kind of offerings we have as terms of like practices, especially the ones that recruit for Cal Poly. Technology risk is what Clarissa does. This one is kind of focused on understanding risks from a technology perspective. And I know that's kind of like ethereal and you're like, what is risk? And sometimes I'm like, what is risk? And I'm in risk practice. But it's essentially anything that like could cause a business harm or something new they don't quite understand. And so we're kind of bringing that understanding from a technology standpoint. The flip side of that coin is enterprise risk, which is what I've done. So this is taking that same approach from a business perspective. Often these two things cross or they're intersecting. So I've definitely worked with people on the tech risk practice on joint projects. If you guys are more curious about like what that is specifically, we can talk about it in Q&A. We also have a technology consulting program. So this is ones that's focused more on just business consulting in general, but technology specific questions. It can be anything from implementing new softwares for large enterprises or to like solving like analytical problems. Like I had a friend who was helping a bank, and I'm sorry if all my examples are financial services related. We do other things, but they were helping a bank do like credit risk monitoring. So essentially like appraising loans, but with artificial intelligence. Pretty interesting stuff. Business consulting program and the FSO one is also kind of like, it's like essentially the same thing as like enterprise risk, but instead of risk, they're focusing more on like just general business problems. In financial services, a lot of things are risk related. And I've seen some people on the West Coast do a lot of those projects. But I also had a friend who was helping build bottling lines for Budweiser. Kind of weird. Who'd have thought that we did that, but we do. Structured finance. These guys are kind of interesting, and I didn't know that we recruited for it out of undergrad, which is kind of cool. But essentially, if you guys have taken any of like the upper level finance classes, they talked about mortgage-backed securities and stuff like that. They're pretty complicated, so banks will help us help them out with that. And if you're interested in doing like that really like kind of pure finance quant stuff, this is kind of the team to do that under. But yeah, I kind of want to open this up to questions and leave it more open-ended. So I think we can talk about the specifics of those things, but if you're not interested in it, we're kind of wasting time. So yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions, and I promise to be candid and open. I know everyone likes to ask like, what's a day to day? And then everyone says it depends. And I think it's a really stupid answer. So I'll try to give you like more real stuff.
Sorry, everyone, my Wi-Fi just crashed. But are we on questions now?
Yeah, we just got to questions. So I kind of breezed through all the job description slides.
Okay.
And
okay.
I literally just opened the floor. So.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm just kind of curious how you guys, like, once you got into the consulting, I guess, side of EY, how did you then decide like what more specific area you wanted to go into?
Totally. I'll start. I studied finance and accounting. And was really interested in finance as a perspective. So I aligned to FSO. And once I was there was a ton of different projects you could do. And I just kind of wanted to do more analytical stuff. So I kind of raised my hand and I said, hey, like, I know we have these market risk projects, which essentially means like looking at like the economy quantitatively and then determining how much money you need on your balance sheet. Um, and so they said, sure, like, nobody else wants to do that stuff. Like, why not? And then I said, okay, well, could I do another one? And after I did 2 or 3, they started asking me to do stuff because they thought me as like an expert because I'd done like 2 projects on it. And it wasn't like I was like, talking to the CEO about how to do stuff, but I knew enough to get around and not ask like, beginner questions. And so one of the things is that you can really, especially in consulting, like compared to other service lines, is if you get a little bit of exposure to one thing and you really like it, you can definitely dive into that and like forge like a mini career in that at EY. But if you want to bounce around, people are totally open to that as well.
Yeah, and I think my answer to that question would be I really figured that out through just talking to more people. I was part of the Summer Leadership Development Conference. And so just from that, I was able to expose myself to the audit practice, the tax practice, the consulting practice, and meet professionals in that sense. I also was an ISA, so I got to learn more about the different practices then. And then when it was time for me to kind of decide which way I want to go, I definitely took into consideration what my concentration was, also what opportunities were even available. And I decided to go into the tech risk space. There's also like the business side of things, but I felt like I had more specialization in the more technology and I wanted to work with more tech companies. So you have to consider like where do you work? What are you interested in? What are you good at? And I also thought long term, I would like to work at a tech company. So I felt like this offered the most opportunity for me to grow in that sense.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, Clarissa, you kind of touched on this already, but my question was, what were kind of your paths during college and like what did you kind of get involved in and how did you kind of land your role at EY?
Yeah, that's a
Did it do it again? No.
Might have. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Here.
guess you can go first then, John.
Yeah, sure. Oh, buckle up, guys, because this one's fun. I came in Cal Poly as an ag business major. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I thought I'd be kind of interested in science or business. And so I thought, hell, I'll do the one that has like a few chemistry classes and a little bit of business classes, and did that. Decided I didn't want to do ag business. Decided I didn't want to do science. Switched into industrial technology and packaging. Did a summer internship. Decided I didn't want to do that. Switched into business. Thought I was going to be in marketing. So I joined the Marketing Association. And then I decided I really didn't like marketing and I found finance and really did like it. And then, yeah, studied abroad, came back, was like, I'm going to be a finance guy. Then I became president of the Marketing Association. I don't really know how that happened, but that was a lot of fun. And then I did another internship and realized I really like quantitative stuff and wanted to get kind of away from like the accounting side of finance. So I came back to Cal Poly and was like, hey, can I do like a kind of quantitative like concentration? And they were like, no, you need to graduate, but you can do accounting. So I did accounting. And so I bounced around a lot and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And kind of came to EY by accident, probably because I'm bad at making decisions and it sounded like a good way of pushing that out for a couple more years. It has kind of narrowed my focus and given me an opportunity to really think about what careers I want to do and what careers I don't want to have. And that's a great thing about consulting is that you are really kind of seeing a lot of other people in their day-to-day jobs. And you can say, that's not for me, or that is for me. And so I've had friends who like really liked that their clients all skied. And I know I keep talking about skiing, but it's really on my mind. But these guys in Denver will literally wake up, hike up a mountain without a ski lift, and then ski down to the office the next morning. And that was their thing. For me, I'm not super interested in that. Like I like it, but not that much. And so, but it's definitely shown me like areas that I'm interested in and areas that I'm not. And EY is a really good platform to explore those things. And Cal Poly is also a really good place to do that. Though I know sometimes it seems kind of one-tracked and like you have to go do this or you have to like be in this concentration. Those barriers are kind of all like made up. Like you really don't have to like play by those rules. So I encourage you guys to do the things you're interested in. And I think EY will really respond well to that.
Yeah, I kind of have an unconventional way that I got to EY too. Not in the fact that I was trying to figure out what I wanted to concentrate in, but in the fact that I feel like I did everything that people tell you to do in order to get a job. And I'm sure many of you who are looking for an opportunity right now are, you're trying to get volunteer experience or leadership experience. And I think the business school does a really good job of pushing that for us. But I found myself really discouraged in my second year when I was applying to everything, and literally it was May and I hadn't gotten anything, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? I had applied for all the Big Four, other outside of the accounting industry too, and didn't get much opportunity there. And then it just hit me. I was like, I just need to, expand and start applying to different things, start talking to people. So I just applied for a scholarship within the Women in Business Club. I wasn't even in the Women in Business Club. I applied to it and I got the scholarship, first scholarship I had ever gotten. I attended the event, the networking event that happened before the award ceremony. And I'm just going to talk to some people. Happened to talk to the EY recruiter, Julia. And Julia was like, hey, what year are you? I'm like, I'm a second year. Have you applied? I'm like, yes. Why haven't we interviewed you? I'm like, because I didn't get an interview. And they're like, okay, we got to interview you. And it was just, all she knew about me was my name, my concentration, and my year. And I think that just showed me that EY was looking for more than just like all your achievements, but they're looking at who are you as a person. And maybe just me being there, willing to approach her, was enough for her to take consideration to me. So to all of you who are looking for a job, like, yes, do all the things that the business provides for you, but also look into other opportunities that you have no idea where those things can take you. And that's how I got into UI. And that's what I really love. Like they really care about what type of people they're bringing into their firm.
It definitely approaches from a personal perspective. I think a lot of people show up and say, hey, this is my resume, and they start reading it to you. And especially standing on the other side of the interview aisle, it's like, okay, I've seen 1,000 resumes today. The things that catch my eye and catch like definitely partners and recruiters' eyes are those more personal touches. And I really wish someone had hammered that home for me when I was in school, because I was the guy who showed up and started reading his resume, and then things fell flat. And I was like, what's going wrong? Like, I've got this great resume. It's literally like on a college businesses like website. They use it as like a template or something for the career services. And I'm like, this thing's great. Like, why don't you love it? Like, I love it. This is my baby. And they're just like, dude, what do you do on weekends? And like, I'm not going to tell them that I was at Frog and Peach all weekend, but you got to have something else that you can like really like share with them. And so I think it's important to like not only approach this from a business perspective. Yes, we're professional, like be professional, but also, show a personal side, and that really does or really will carry you a lot farther than you think.
That was a good question.
John, you mentioned that EY is a good stepping stone in terms of your career path, and you also mentioned that you're interested in data analytics. So I was wondering if like you or Clarissa, you can answer this too, but if you've used that badge program, and then also adding on to that, what exactly do you see yourself doing after EY?
Totally. So I'm actually kind of at this career juncture right now. Within EY, there's a lot of rotations, or if you're interested in a practice, the best way to get exposure is to ask for a rotation. And that's going to be like, it's essentially like a mini internship within the firm. Like you just go to a different practice, you kind of use their charge codes, and then you're managed by them on their projects. And so I'm currently in a rotation with our strategy and transactions analytics group. And so because that was something that I was really interested in. It's kind of a mix of like doing finance and kind of accounting work for M&A deals, but also bringing in like an analytics component. It's really new. Like this practice didn't exist 2 years ago. And so I feel really lucky to like have, timed this so well. But it's something that I want to switch into full time. And so they had seen that I'd done my CPA, but I was also like doing badges in Power BI and Alteryx, and they were like, okay, you're like a really good fit for this. I think you'd be like an easy transition. And so that's something I want to do for a few more years while I stay at EY. And if it goes really well, maybe I'll stick around and try to, rise up through the ranks that way. Otherwise, I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunity to take those skill sets to just about any company. And that's something I'm really passionate about, is just like having a skill set that I can like kind of be really portable and take other places. But yeah, that could lead to do anything from, like, I know a guy who just left and he's like head of analytics for a startup. And so all of like their reporting and stuff is like going through him. And I know another guy who left EY who wasn't in analytics to go to that cryptocurrency exchange, and now he's like their head of finance. And so there's definitely like a lot of respect for this name on your resume, the same way there's a lot of respect for Cal Poly on your resume. But it also like demands that you put in a lot of effort and you like go out of your way to make those things happen. So
You gotta like back it up.
so, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's enough, like, yeah, go to Cal Poly, like, great. But like, if you go to Cal Poly and you're not like in one of the clubs, or like you're not involved in something, like, what were you doing for 4 years?
Yeah.
And people are gonna ask you the same questions when you're leaving EY. Like, all right, you went to EY, like, what else were you doing?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you definitely have to. Yeah, you definitely have to go out of your way to, and that might look like even going outside of your own work schedule. Like right now, I haven't taken any badges because I haven't had the chance to, but I am looking into certifications, and EY does like offer, if you take a certification and you pass, they will pay for like testing fees, exam fees, and all that, which is really nice. So I'm looking into a project management certification because that's something I'd be interested in the future. I don't know for sure yet because I've never had the opportunity to try it out yet as a staff. However, I think having a certification to back up what I'm already doing at EY will be beneficial for me in the future if that is something I choose to do.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool, because I feel like at some other company you probably wouldn't have any opportunity to get exposure into that. But with EY, they let you dabble in things that you feel like you would be interested in.
And it's definitely
That's great
encouraged.
to hear.
Yeah, they definitely encourage us to do it too, because the more valuable we are as individuals, the more valuable we become for our clients as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, the firm's incentivized to keep you around. Like, once you're here, I mean, you guys see all the effort that Julia puts in to recruit people from Cal Poly. Like, the budget for SLO is the biggest in the country, or one of the biggest.
Yeah.
But once
Yeah.
you're there, they really don't want to waste that money. So if you're interested in doing something else, there's always that opportunity. And they'll, if you're good, they'll bend over backwards to make it happen.
Can you guys like talk about some of the projects you've worked on, or like some of your favorite ones? Thanks.
Clarissa, you did some cool ones. You should go first.
It's so difficult because we're not technically allowed to say which clients we're on, but like John mentioned earlier, I am working on one of the bigger ride sharing companies, and that has probably been the highlight for me. When I first started with the firm, I definitely worked with smaller teams, smaller clients, and I definitely got to specialize in a few areas, but working with a larger company is definitely an experience in itself, because you just see there's so much that goes into one client. And especially with this new age that we're entering, we're already in an age of technology. There's so much need for risk mitigation and making sure that all those controls and controls are in place to mitigate those risks. And I've had a blast working with them and seeing how my managers operate a large team of 50 people. Never been on a team that big, and being able to build relationships, even though I started on this client virtually, has been really great. And I've learned so much about that industry and how much I can contribute. And I feel like it's really tested my ability to adapt in different situations and learn how to manage my time across 4 different seniors, for example. So It's been a challenge, especially on a virtual setting, but I've had a lot of fun. For me, I personally like the big client company and the big team environments, but I know for other people, they prefer different things, and that's something you can always make known. John, what's your favorite?
It's definitely that cryptocurrency exchange, which is like, well, it's interesting. It just sounds interesting. And then you go up and you show it. And I don't know, I was expecting like a bunch of people who are like Bitcoin nerds or like obsessed with like, you know, all these weird currencies. And they'd be like, oh, like you don't own Dogecoin? Like, what's wrong with you? And that really wasn't the culture. Like, they were really kind of like almost agnostic. And they were just like, no, we just think this is a really cool product. We want to like to see where it can go. So it wasn't as much of a cult as I was expecting. And no offense if you guys are into like crypto assets, like that's awesome. But they were really down to earth, and especially like coming in, I think that's why they brought EY on, is because they wanted something to kind of ground them and have a more like kind of, you know, they saw themselves as a real financial services company, not just like a goofy startup. And so they wanted us to kind of help them put that polish on. And so we were looking at really specific processes that were really core to their business and asking like, you know, can this scale, or is this something that's like in line with the standards that other like financial services and like traditional financial services kind of have to do? And that's what we were bringing. So it felt like I had some expertise, which was like kind of cool because it's like I've been here for 2 years and I actually did learn something. And it also felt like they were really receptive to it. And they were really fun. Like it was just kind of a fast, like quicker culture on like a traditional bank. And the other thing was great, that was the client that hired us had actually just left our team. And so we had a really good relationship with them because 2 months earlier, I was sitting next to him in the office. And that's the thing you'll see a lot in the industry, is that EY also has an alumni network, and a lot of our, you know, ex-talent becomes our future clients. And so it was cool to already have a working relationship with a client and kind of already know how to deal with them, and then also be really helping them with something.
Those are super cool. Thank you. I like how you like continually like change projects too. Then it like keeps it interesting. Like you're like constantly working with different people. Just sounds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I easily get bored, so I feel like
so do I.
need
So
that
I'm like, I
change.
need like to constantly change.
Yeah.
Like really quickly, can you talk a little bit about like the specific tools you guys use to like make your decisions, everything?
We're in the quant group. We got to like show off a little bit, Clarissa.
I think we know
definitely,
as much as you guys do, so don't worry about it.
yeah, I remember like coming to like every year I'd go to like a career fair and someone would be like, "Oh, cool, do you know Excel?" I was like a freshman. I was like, "No, okay, I'll learn Excel." And then next year I'd come back and be like, "Okay, do you know SQL?" I'd be like, "I'll learn SQL." And then we took like one like Udemy course for like an hour, and then it was the next year was Tableau. There's all these things, and I was like, I can't keep up. Like, I don't know what you people want from me. I think more generally, it's good to just kind of have a principles approach. Like, for example, there's a dozen different BI softwares out there. If you understand what looks good and like the best way to communicate, it doesn't really matter which one you know how to use, right? You can learn it. And I think data has a specific architecture to it that where you can tell if it's good or not. And that doesn't mean you have to be a SQL expert or an Alteryx expert or any other like data handling tool expert to know that. But you have to at least understand, or it's really helpful to understand kind of your way around those things. At the end of the day, they're all solving kind of similar problems. So I wouldn't say don't be super worried about which specific tools you use. Learn them because it'll teach you about the actual underlying thing, which is like handling large amounts of information. My clients in EY really like Power BI, and they're really interested in DAX, partially because it's really easy to get Microsoft softwares. Other people use Tableau and Spotfire. We really like Alteryx because it's super portable and it's like kind of hard to break on like SQL code. That one's harder to get your hands on. So if you guys do some like learning a SQL, that's something that like everyone seems to like really respect. They're like, okay, this guy knows data stuff. And I did an internship where I learned SQL, and it really was a foot in the door for me for some projects. And then obviously Python and R are like the really respected statistical softwares. So if those things are interesting to you and you want to go that deep, like definitely do it. There's a lot of trainings here to learn it, but it helps to have that background. It's a lot easier to go up to a manager and be like, hey, I'd like to work on your project. I know this thing versus, hey, I'd like to work on your project and you have to teach me this thing. And that differentiation is the difference between you and the next guy getting on that project. So yeah, and then obviously like you know Excel. If you guys don't know Excel by the time you graduate, like I don't know what they were teaching. Like, but those other things are like definitely like really nice icing on the cake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like you nailed it on the head.
But don't stress about it. Like really don't stress about it. Like we know you're undergrads. Like don't.
You're gonna learn on the job for sure.
Way to learn, honestly. So thank you.
Very
I
cool.
know you're at the top of the hour.
Yeah. But if you guys have anything else to add, you can add it now. Otherwise, I'll stop the recording. That's fine.
Thanks for having us.